Hi, I'm Leslie Maddox, an engineer turned homeschool mom, and this has been our second week of homeschooling for the 2024-2025 year. And so this video will be a recap of this second week of homeschooling for us. I'm doing this as part of therapy for myself in order to decompress and focus on what worked well for us, the things that I loved, and as far as the things that didn't work as well, maybe look at those in a more constructive way, and instead of just being upset about it or depressed about it, instead look at it as, okay, why didn't that work, and how can I make that better next time? So I'm going to address actually the major thing that didn't work last week. I'm going to address that in this video. What I'm thinking I'm going to do going forward, what will work better for us. And in order to solve that problem. In other words, I don't want to just complain, I want to solve problems. So that's my plan for this video. All right. So let's start off with something that I liked about this week and see if you can relate. My younger two, my 10-year-old and my 12-year-old, I'm doing a new unit study with them. We're doing a lot of our subjects using the mystery of history as a spine. And one of my goals for this year was to go back to being a little less serious about our schoolwork, maintain some rigor, but not focus on rigor. This year, I want to focus on delight and getting things done in a more delightful way. So, as part of that, I thought I was going to bring back picture books. Now, with my youngest, I haven't really let go of picture books. We've been doing some here and there. But I'm going at it harder this year than I have before because with a high schooler now, I'm realizing that these, what's that saying? The days are long, but the years are short. Those years feel like they're getting shorter. And I want to bring back a little bit more of the childlike delight into our home because I have been very stressed out about my role as a homeschool parent and my role in helping my kids prepare for the future. I've been pretty stressed out about that. So I've really been needing to bring back some delight. So I don't know if you can relate. If you can, let me know. Drop a comment about your thoughts on balancing, preparing our kids for the future with having a delightful childhood. I feel like that's a difficult balance to have in our homeschool sometimes. So anyway, still something I'm thinking about. So this year I wanted to bring back picture books in a bigger way. So we're studying ancient times. I'm studying ancient times with my younger two this year. And so what I did was I went through both the mystery of history curriculum and the books, especially the picture books that they recommended for read-alouds. There are other books they're going to be reading as more the literature portion of their schoolwork this year, where they read those on their own and they either fill out worksheets or go through a literature guide or something like that. So that's kind of a different thing. I'm talking about the read-alouds right now. So I went through the mystery of history curriculum and picked out the read-alouds that I wanted to do, especially focusing on picture books. And I also went through our own library, books that we've read in the past, picture books I still had from when we did ancient times years ago, when my oldest was in elementary school. And I'm also using as read aloud some of the readers that they used when they were learning to read. I have a lot of readers that are focused on history. And so since those readers do have a lot of pictures, I decided to use those as read alouds this year. And I wasn't sure how that was going to work. I thought maybe this is going to be too simple and all, but it's worked out pretty well. Like this year or this week, we were learning about the Ice Age and about fossils. So that's kind of what we're learning about this week. So I used as read alouds a book called Dinosaur Hunters that it's a reader that they used years ago when they were learning to read. So we learned about the Ice Age, fossils, dinosaurs, all that kind of thing this week in history. And so the read alouds were like Dinosaur Hunter. I have a reader called Cave People that we read through. see, oh, another one, Fossils Tell of Long Ago. So those were all readers that I used as read-alouds this time around. And that worked pretty well because it served as a way to review what they learned in history, and then to review it with some pictures. My kids are very visual. I think most kids are, right? I mean, I am. I'm nowhere near a kid, but I'm childlike sometimes. But anyway, don't we all love pictures? So that has helped that they listen to the audiobook for Mystery of History, the lesson for that day. And then we have a read aloud where it has a lot of pictures in it and it repeats some of the same information, gives us some new information, and they serve as a review and also as a conversation starter. Something we've noticed a lot is how, depending on your source, when it comes to ancient times, you're going to get different time periods. And so we've talked a lot about that, about how we don't really know when certain things happen, but these are all estimates and guesses, educated guesses as to when these events may have occurred. And a lot of smart people come up with different dates. And so that has been a good conversation starter for us. So I feel like that's worked out pretty well. Even though my youngest is 10, I'm doing this with a 10-year-old and 12-year-old. The picture books and readers used as picture books have helped us to review. I think repetition is really important when learning something. But when we think of repetition, we usually think of, or at least I do, of something like flashcards, which I still like. But my favorite form of repetition with elementary school students especially is to go over the same information but in different ways instead of just repeating the same thing over and over again. So I feel like it's met that goal. But then the maybe more surprising, just something I hadn't planned but that has worked out, is that these picture books serve as conversation starters for us. And as far as the conversation starters go, I gotta be honest with you, I'm having to remind myself to be patient during that, because I'm a checklist person. I love a checklist. So I'm going boom, boom, boom. Here's the things we got to cover. And we do need to cover those things. But I think my question for next week is, how can I make sure that in my list of things to do that I build in time in order to have those conversations instead of just doing an information dump. So that's the thing that didn't work out quite as well this week. I felt myself getting impatient. And my kids do love to talk. I mean, by the way, I ramble sometimes. Probably doesn't come as any surprise to you, but they do love a conversation. And so something I need to work on this coming up week is how to have those conversations, how to build time for those conversations, and how to have the conversations in a way where I can end it without it turning into, okay, let's stop, let's move on, without me getting upset. Is what it boils down to. So, picture books have worked out really well. Something that I was struggling with last week, and I think I found a solution. The thing I was struggling with was moving from subject to subject during our group time. My group time was with my younger two. I shared with you that we have a table in the schoolroom that we're using, and I want to stick there. I don't want to move to the dining room table or anything like that, because I want to corral the mess. Basically, I've said before how we end up with pencils and all over the house, and it's hilarious when I walk into the schoolroom now and there's always like 2 or 3 pencils on the floor, and that kind of thing just drives me crazy. So I'm trying to limit that, keep that from happening all over the house again this year, and not just the pencils, but random papers and they put something down somewhere and then they can't find it because it's in a random spot. And so I really want to corral things by doing our group work in the schoolroom. But the flip side of that is that we don't have a lot of room to spread out there. And so I've been having a hard time moving from subject to subject. I realized, I kind of knew it before, I just hadn't had time because we were just in the thick of things. didn't have time to really deal with it. But a major problem when it came to moving from subject to subject was that I had been putting all their schoolwork into their individual binders. So last year I used a binder system with my kids, something kind of like this, which I'm using in a different way this time around. This is actually one of the ones that we used before. You can see it still has labels from whichever student was using these. And I put their schoolwork into the pockets in the binders, and they have a different section for each subject. And that works out really well, especially if you need to go somewhere, or if you want to go to a restaurant or anything like that to do schoolwork. You can just kind of pick that up and go. Well, since we're doing group work this year and we don't have a lot of room to spread out, that has been a little bit of a problem when I've been putting things that they need for their group work into the binder, because the binders they're using now are these zipper binders that I really love, but they take up a lot of space and there's not space for them. So I was telling them, like, put them on the floor or just find somewhere to put them, and then they will put them down, and that would turn into a problem. It just got to be a mess. And so then I would take it and just put them on the desk next to me, but then I would be going through their binders to get the things because of all the chairs, and there just wasn't room to move around. And so I realized that I didn't need to be putting their group work into their binder. I mean, I know it's duh, what was I thinking? But I just kind of went on automatic pilot. Last year I was putting everything into their binder, so this year I started doing the same thing. And I realized that wasn't working. I need to keep all those things. And then when we get to that subject, I hand out those things. And that'll help us in moving from subject to subject. In the future, it'll smooth the way for that. And so this binder that I was using before, or this kind of notebook, it's more of a project notebook. It's called, this is the label I had on there, viewables, because you can slip something in here, and then there's labels in here for putting adhesive labels for putting on these tabs. If I recall correctly, the adhesive labels didn't work really well, which is why I ended up just writing on them with permanent marker, but I'm going to try the adhesive labels again. Anyway, so I'm putting their stuff in the things that they're going to need for our group work in here, and then I would just hand them out when needed. And that way their binders will have in it only the things that they'll do as independent work, or maybe to hold some like literature guides, things like that. I'm sorry, the light's moving a lot. Sorry, I'm sitting in front of a window and I realized that the light, the sun was moving, and it's really distracting. So I've partially closed those blinds, so hopefully we won't have an issue with the light. Anyway, what was I saying? So I decided to use this thing for what I was saying, putting all of their group work into. So things like the timeline figures that we're using from, I think, Homeschool in the Woods. So these are just the ones we needed for like a couple of weeks, and I'll put those in here. And when it's time to put them into our timeline notebooks from Schoolnest, I think it was called, I showed those last week, or at least one of the notebooks that we got from them. But we got the timeline notebooks from them, and so whenever we need to put those in there, I'll just hand those out. The maps that are needed for our geography work for Mystery of History, I put them all in here, and I'll hand those out. We're doing that on either Thursday or Friday of each week. What else have in here? I printed out a lot of the worksheets from Mystery of History for that were like some exercises, or I'm sorry, I'm just showing this terribly, like exercises or quizzes, and we're using those as review on Fridays. So I put those in there because we're just going to do those together. And I need to add in here science, whatever science worksheets we use, because we're doing a variety of different, our science is coming from a variety of different sources in order to match up with what we're learning in Mystery of History. And so those don't need to really go into their binders because we're doing science together. Those are the ones I can think of now. And as I go along and see that, oh, I'm putting things into their binders that really don't need to be put in there, I can just give that to them when we're working together. And that'll cut down a lot of the moving around and looking for things. That'll cut down a lot of that problem, I think. And so I'm pretty happy with this solution. I'm just going to fully try it out this next week and see how that goes. But I think this is a good solution. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I didn't do that before. I should have thought this isn't rocket science. It's just that I went on automatic from what was working last year and didn't fully think through all of the implications of how changing up, moving to a unit study group work type format for some of our subjects, how that would change our routines. And so, but that's why we start off the school year with instead of all of our schoolwork starting it on day one, kind of ramping up the work, because I know there's going to be these kinds of hiccups, and I need to give myself room to troubleshoot and solve problems in our routines and how schoolwork is getting done and how I'm teaching things. So I need to have that room in order to troubleshoot so that I'm not too stressed out. Now that I think I've solved my organization issue with our group work, I'll share with you something that I got to do an activity with my oldest, which I just love because I'm a nerd and I love these kinds of things. So my oldest, my 15-year-old, he's doing chemistry this year. He's doing Guest Hollow's Chemistry in the Kitchen curriculum, which I'm liking so far. Something that was not recommended by the Guest Hollow curriculum, but instead was recommended by a reviewer. I'll try to remember to add that link to the description box below of the homeschool mom who shared how she used Chemistry in the Kitchen with her students. And one of the things she suggested a couple of activities that I ended up getting. One was this game Flux, and we played it once and my son really liked it. And we need to go back to playing that regularly. I need to add it to Homeschool Planet, to our lesson planner, so I don't forget to do it. But the other thing was a puzzle of the periodic table. So here's the thing with puzzles, and I think it's a 1,000-piece puzzle. How many of us have a place that we can just put a puzzle and work on it over time and it not get in the way? Probably not many of us. I know we don't have a place like that. The table that we're using for our homeschool group work now, that's the table that used to be our puzzle table. And so obviously that's not available now. And the other thing is that I like to do a puzzle, work on a puzzle, sometimes watching TV or just kind of having something on the TV. To me, that's relaxing and kind of occupies the bits of my mind that aren't bored by the puzzle, even though puzzles are fun. Well, I think puzzles are fun. And my kids like them too. So I thought, what are we going to do? Where are we going to do this puzzle? The other thing is the coffee table would be the place you would think to do a puzzle, but our dog, we have a German Shepherd, and it's not like she likes to eat puzzle pieces, but she likes to sniff and see what's happening. And she's got this tail that just wags and hits things. And so her tail's pretty meaty and can knock some things down. So I wanted to be able to move this puzzle around and also protect it from dogs, kids, whatever. So I don't even know where it was. I saw a picture recently of, I don't know if maybe it was in a newsletter or a blog. I don't know where it was, but it was this board that looked almost like a frame with a puzzle being worked on inside. So obviously it was made for the puzzles because there are trays and all for puzzle pieces. I thought, okay, I need that in my life. I need it now. And so it turns out Amazon has a lot of these puzzle boards. I'll put a link to the one I ended up getting down below. And there's different sizes of puzzle boards. I ended up choosing a white one that has the 4 trays, and that was large enough to fit. It's supposed to be large enough to fit the puzzle we're working on. And it's pretty large. And it also has a Lazy Susan. It doesn't attach. You just put the puzzle board on top of it, and then you can turn it that way. It's really neat. And what I like about this isn't just that it has the Lazy Susan, and it's a dedicated place for the puzzles, and it's got the raised edge, but that I can pick it up, or maybe with some help to be really extra careful, because it's not really heavy, but it's not super light. But we can pick it up and move it to another spot if we need to. And something I didn't even think about, but it comes with this mat. It's kind of a heavy mat that you place over it. So I'll put a video here somewhere of this puzzle board in action. But this heavy mat that you put on top, so whatever your work in progress, your puzzle in progress is protected, and everything's kind of left where all the pieces and all are left where you want them. So yesterday, for example, I put the mat on top. We started working on it yesterday, and I put the mat on top, and I was folding towels this morning, and I was able to fold towels there on top of the puzzle tray. And actually, one of my sons, one of my younger boys, he had been helping the puzzle last night, and he came by kind of on the catwalk upstairs and saw just a black mat on the puzzle over the puzzle board, and I had put the drawers with the other puzzle pieces we weren't working on yet, like in the puzzle board where they belong. And so he didn't see any puzzle. He almost had a heart attack. He's like, "Where's the puzzle?" I had to lift up the mat and show him it's right here. So everything's fine. And then we had our cleaning service come this morning, and so I asked one of the cleaning ladies to come over and say, "Hey, I just want to show you, we have this puzzle here under this mat, so if you could please not disturb it." And so she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you showed me, because we moved this to clean this coffee table, and I wouldn't have known it was there." I mean, it's that well kind of hidden and protected. So I am such a nerd that I'm geeking out over this thing. I love it so much. It makes me happy just to look at. I just love it. Like, it's functional, it's attractive, it's kind of a wow factor for me. It just makes me so happy. So for any of you who really like to work on puzzles and to include puzzles into your schoolwork, but maybe hesitate to do it sometimes because it can be a commitment if it's like a 500,000 piece puzzle, especially those, what are they called? The Ravensburg? I can't remember exactly the brand. There's some really beautiful puzzles, but they tend to be larger puzzles. If you want the joy of working on those, but are worried about dedicating a spot to a puzzle and then worry about losing pieces, because don't you hate it when you finish a puzzle and then you've lost a piece or two? Try not to stress over that, but that just bothers me. And you don't know if was it not in the puzzle box, or did it come with the puzzle, but we lost it somewhere along the way. It's under the couch, it's under the table. Like, where did it go? Did the dog eat it? So I hate that. and so this may be the solution to your problem. It's, I think, the solution to our problem. Another nice thing about this board is that we can use it for games. So when we're not doing a puzzle on it and we're playing a board game, since it's got that Lazy Susan circular thing that we can place the puzzle board on top of, it's nice that we can turn it to whoever's playing at that time, but especially because it's got that raised edge. My kids, if we roll dice, they end up going everywhere, and that bothers me. So it'll help with that as well. And maybe even if we do a longer game, we'll play Monopoly or something, then with that mat, you can cover up some, if it's not something that has a lot of raised pieces and all, maybe it can even cover part of it, like the bank. So that'll be nice. So it's good, not just for puzzles, but also for games. And look at me, I sound like a commercial for them. I just really like it. It's just something that made me really happy this past week. I tend to be pretty cheap about things, and I think a lot. I tend to overthink on everything, but I think a lot about even making a purchase like this. So if I spend some money on something and I think it's really worth the money, and it makes things better and not more difficult, and it's not just throwing away money, then that just gives me extra pleasure. We had some moments where, and I will blame it on not getting up early enough, not giving us enough time in the morning to get a few things done. get everything done that we wanted to get done. And then, so then there are some modes. You know, we're focusing on trying to get the kids to bed at a decent time. And that's really where it begins, right? Trying to get the kids to bed on time, making sure they're not staying up doing something they're not supposed to be doing. And so they can get their sleep. And me too. I need to get my sleep in so that I can get up in the morning and with somewhat of a good attitude, because it's just awful when the morning starts off bad, isn't it? So that's our recap for this week. Hopefully next week will be even better. And I hope that your week has gone well too. Let me know what the highlight of your week was. I'd love to hear about it. And I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.